Brazil was never supposed to look like this. A line drawn in Europe gave most of South America to Spain. Portugal received only a narrow eastern slice. Yet, centuries later, Brazil controlled almost half the continent. How did one colony break the line and become a continental giant? Before Portugal arrived, this was no empty wilderness. Millions of indigenous people lived across forests, rivers, grasslands, and coastal villages. Hundreds of nations spoke different languages, traded, and fought their own wars. The land already had history. Europe simply refused to recognize it. In 1500, Pedro Álvares Cabral's fleet reached the coast. Portugal claimed the territory, but lines on parchment meant nothing without control on the ground. At first, the Portuguese wanted Brazil wood. Its valuable red dye gave the colony its name, and Europe a reason to stay. Portugal controlled scattered coastal posts, not an entire country. French traders appeared. Settlements failed. Indigenous resistance remained fierce. In 1534, the crown divided the coast into hereditary captaincies, expecting private settlers to defend and develop them. Most collapsed, but two successful colonies revealed what would transform Brazil: sugar. Sugar made Brazil valuable and brutally dependent on forced labor. Indigenous people were enslaved, displaced, and killed by warfare and disease. Portuguese merchants expanded the trafficking of enslaved Africans across the Atlantic. Over the following centuries, around 5 million Africans were landed in Brazil, more than anywhere else in the Americas. Then came the men who shattered Portugal's official borders. From São Paulo, expeditions called Bandeiras pushed deep into the interior. Bandeirantes searched for gold, captured indigenous people, and destroyed resisting communities. Their violence expanded Portuguese occupation beyond the Treaty of Tordesillas. Spain owned the interior on European maps. Portugal was taking it on the ground. In the late 17th century, gold was discovered in the southeast. Hundreds of thousands moved inland. Mining towns rose almost overnight. Wealth shifted away from the old sugar coast, and in 1763, the colonial capital moved from Salvador to Rio de Janeiro. Brazil was no longer a thin coastline. Its political center was moving inland. By 1750, the old dividing line was impossible to defend. Portugal and Spain negotiated the Treaty of Madrid using a brutal principle. Land belonged to whoever effectively occupied it. Although parts were later disputed, the agreement recognized Portuguese expansion and helped establish Brazil's continental shape. Brazil's next transformation began across the Atlantic. Napoleon invaded Portugal in 1807. Instead of surrendering, the Portuguese royal court fled under British protection. Rio de Janeiro became the seat of the monarchy. Ports opened, institutions appeared, and in 1815, Brazil became a kingdom united with Portugal. When Portugal demanded Brazil return to colonial status, Prince Pedro refused. On September 7, 1822, he declared independence and became Emperor Pedro I. Unlike Spanish America, which fractured into several republics, Brazil preserved most of its territory under one monarchy. But independence did not bring peace, freedom, or stable borders. The empire almost broke apart. Rebellions erupted from north to south. War over Cisplatin province ended in 1828 with independent Uruguay. Pedro I abdicated 3 years later. Brazil survived because the monarchy, army, and political elite crushed separatism and preserved the central state. Under Pedro II, Brazil entered decades of relative stability. Coffee plantations expanded. Railways connected ports and cities. Victory in the Paraguayan War strengthened the army, but exposed the empire's dependence on slavery. Brazil appeared modern from a distance. Beneath the surface, enslaved labor supported its wealth while the monarchy lost its strongest allies. In 1888, Princess Isabel signed the Golden Law, abolishing slavery without providing land or support to the formerly enslaved. The act destroyed support among powerful slaveholding elites. 18 months later, army officers overthrew the monarchy. Pedro II was exiled. Brazil became a republic, but democracy remained fragile. Brazil's final major territorial expansion came in the Amazon. Brazilian rubber workers dominated Bolivia's Acre region and revolted. The 1903 Treaty of Petrópolis transferred Acre to Brazil in exchange for compensation and construction commitments. The continental map was almost complete. Vargas centralized power and accelerated industrialization after 1930. Brasilia became the inland capital in 1960. Military dictatorship followed in 1964. Democracy returned in 1985, and the 1988 Constitution restored civilian rule. Today, Brazil covers nearly half of South America.